This is a good question. What are some questions you could ask someone if you noticed something was up?
You usually just ask, don't you? You know? I think if you don't ask, you're not going to get an answer for, so why guess?
The most obvious one is, are you okay?
Are you stressed at the moment? How's your stress management going?
Do you feel comfortable talking to me about that so that we can put some plans in place to support you if that, you know, early on, rather than it getting too bad?
If I know something's up with somebody, I tend to show them some of my vulnerability, and that feels and sets them in a space where they feel comfortable sharing their vulnerability with me.
If someone just goes, are you okay, while you're crying, it's kind of like, well, you just defeated the entire purpose of asking, are you okay? Because obviously I'm not.
But if they actually say, I've seen this about you, what's up with that? Then like that leads, that bridges the conversation.
All I'd add is that sometimes it's helpful to lead with some of your experience as well, and just say, oh, look, I know that when I get stressed, it comes out in this flusteredness.
And I can see you're clearly stressed. Something's going to give.
And to help someone at their worst, you've got to understand them at their best too, you know? And, you know, having those conversations when someone is in a good space.
Sometimes I find they don't talk about it, they'll nod or grunt, but you're hoping that it's at least raised a point where they might go away and think about it.
How do you introduce the matter of being unwell?
So, one day in a catch-up with my boss, we were having coffee in a cafe in Fort Street. I took a big breath and said I wanted to talk to him about something personal.
I guess being from that rational sort of world is I did a lot of reading trying to understand this, and people were saying you need to talk about this. So I actually got all my managers and that in a room and explained to them what was going on when I was right in the middle of it. I'm not sure in hindsight that was a good or a bad thing to do, but I did that.
He said, oh yeah, that it explained a few things about the way I behaved sometimes and the way I was.
I wanted her to explain to me why, what was happening, so I could understand, I suppose.
You know, some people choose to, some people choose not to. The problem if you don't disclose and then things go wrong, then people will say, well, you know, why didn't you share this with us? We would have been understanding. We could have put supports in place.
I don't think you need to use words like mental illness. I don't think you need to use words like depression or diagnoses at all.
I agree.
People open up, they talk about their own struggles, so they understand you better, but also if things are not going so well, they're able to, you know, put a label on you.
Any flaw or fault I might do in the workplace, you know, you can't cope, you're not doing the job well enough.
They can say to themselves, oh, that's because he's bipolar.
And it's almost an assumptive behaviour, so they're expecting me to do badly or poorly in my job because I've been open about my mental illness, which isn't the case. I'm amazing.
What could a manager do if they don't know how to approach or help the situation?
Well, you've got to remember you're not isolated as a manager either. And you have got your manager, and you've got other senior colleagues around, and there's an entire HR department. So there's plenty of people that you can reach out to with advice.
If they're in a smaller organisation, they could just have a conversation and ask some open-ended questions. Maybe something will come up without putting pressure on the person, without being too specific.
Acknowledging that you don't know is a really important thing, and that's not a sign of weakness either, because there isn't a lot of platforms for people to have that discussion in their everyday lives.
What could I do to help? Walk me through what you need.
Just ask if there's something they can do to lessen the workload.
It would be helpful to have some sort of education in mental health issues, I think.
Find out what you can about this illness to try and help the person themselves. You know, there was a lot of people there that didn't understand it, didn't know what to say. Well, go and find it, you know.
So if someone does show up with an issue, that you're not blindsided by it.
What would have been helpful would have been if my manager was open to discussing what it was that was bothering me in the first place.
You know, don't look at what I am now and what's happening now. Look at what I did for the previous 8 years. You know, that's who the person was, and I want to get back to that.